Hello children, welcome to today's English class. Hope you all are safe, fine and healthy at home. Children, in the last class we had discussed some writing skills and tried to write some analytical paragraphs. Now as far as your writing skills are concerned, we have finished both the questions that would appear in your question paper, that is formal letters on any given situation and writing analytical paragraphs based on the facts in the form of maps, report, line graph or bar graph. So I hope you have started practicing writing analytical paragraphs, as I had given you a lot of examples and also the situations based on which you could write these paragraphs. Today we'll again go back to your prose and we will be learning a poem, A Tiger in the Zoo. But before we move on to the poem, let me ask you a question. Does this earth belong only to we human beings and the resources are to be utilized by us alone? Your answer will definitely be no. And you are exactly right in answering so, because this earth belongs to other creatures along with human beings, plants, animals, birds, the forests, right? And therefore all these creatures are interdependent on each other and they help in maintaining the ecosystem, and also they help in maintaining the food chain. You might have studied about the food chain in science. Therefore, if we human beings try to cross our limits and try to take away the freedom of other creatures, it would not only affect their life but also our own life. We will be endangering our own life. Therefore, in order to maintain the ecological balance and a harmony among all the creatures of the earth, since I told you all are interdependent on each other, we need to learn to share, and we also need to be within our limits and utilize the resources as much as it is required by us, right? So today's poem contrasts the tiger in the zoo and the tiger in its natural habitat, right? So after learning the poem, we will come to know what the poet wants to tell us, what he wants us to ponder upon. So let's go to the poem. A Tiger in the Zoo by Leslie Norris. Now let's look into the poem. He stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage on paths of velvet quiet in his quiet rage. Now some of the words which you might find difficult. Stalks means follows, vivid, bright colored. Pad means paws of tiger, rage, anger. Now the poet says that the tiger stalks in his vivid stripes. We all know that the tiger is a beautiful, strong, powerful animal, and he is also at the same time a proud creature, has got stripes on its body which is admired by all. So in his vivid bright stripes, he is stalking, means moving quietly, okay, inside the cage. Now in the first stanza, the poet is describing a tiger inside the cage. Now as I told you in the beginning, the poem contrasts a tiger in the cage and then in its natural habitat, right? So he says inside the cage, you can see in the picture also, the picture of a zoo and where the tigers have been caged. So When the tiger is inside the cage, you know it's very angry, as it is mentioned in the stanza rage. Okay, so he's very angry, and he's angry violently, and he's walking inside the cage on pads of velvet white. You might have seen the paws of the tiger, they are padded, right? So velvet, velvet means you know that a silky soft cloth, so pads of velvet. So with this paws, padded paws, it is moving quietly inside the cage. Velvet quiet means the movement of the tiger. So with his bright stripes, the tiger is moving very quietly inside the cage, and at the same time he is in his quiet rage. Quiet rage, that means here this is an oxymoron. We will learn when we look at the literary devices mentioned in this stanza. So rage means he is very angry, but he does not show it because he cannot do anything. He is helpless inside the cage, so he cannot do anything but moving quietly inside the cage. Now let's look at the literary devices in the first stanza. The rhyme scheme is A, B, C, B, that is cage and rage. You might remember we had learned poetic devices in 2 different classes, and we have also learned 2 more poems where you were familiar with the poetic devices used in the poem. So you might remember how to find out the rhyme scheme of the different stanzas of a poem. Now the rhyme scheme here is A, B, C, B. Personification. I hope you remember the poetic device personification, when an inanimated object is given life. So the tiger is personified here in the poem because the poet refers to the tiger as he. Normally we don't call an animal as he or she, right? But here the poet has used this poetic device personification to personify the tiger. Metaphor. The tiger's paws are compared with velvet, that is pads of velvet, right? So the soft silky cloth, velvet cloth, has been, when you touch a velvet cloth you have that feeling of a softness. So the padded claws of the tiger have been compared with this velvet, right? So that is metaphor. I hope you remember metaphor is a poetic device where the poet compares 2 different things without the use of like or as. Oxymoron. We had also discussed oxymoron. Quiet rage. Oxymoron is the use of adjectives opposite in meaning. Like quiet means silent, right? Very cool, without any noise, and rage is violent anger, right? So these 2 are 2 different opposite adjectives, but they have been used together in the poem by the poet. So it's known as oxymoron. Now let's move to the next stanza. He should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass near the water hole where plump deer pass. Now let's look at the word meanings of some of the words. Lurking, to be hidden as to wait for your prey. Sliding, moving smoothly and quietly. Water hole, a small pool of water where animals go to drink water. Plump, fat. Now here the poet says he should be lurking in shadow. He means here the tiger. Here again the poet is talking about the tiger in its natural habitat. The first stanza spoke of the tiger inside the cage. What were his feelings, right? And now he is talking about the tiger. If the tiger was left free in its natural habitat, what would be the situation or what would be his activities, right? So he should be lurking. Lurking means hiding behind and waiting for its prey. So if it was in its natural habitat, what the tiger would do, it would hide behind the trees or the shadow of the trees, quietly hiding there. Lurking means hiding there waiting for its prey to come. Sliding through long grass, right? So sliding means what? Moving quietly, okay, without any movement. So it would move very quietly through the long grass to hunt its prey, that is the plump deer. And here the water hole means we saw a small pool of water where animals go to drink water. So the tiger's prey, the deer, would come there to drink water, and the tiger would be hiding there behind the bushes, in the shadows of trees, and would walk quietly along the long grass and attack on its prey. Because when the tiger is in its natural habitat, it does not need anybody's help for its food. It finds its own food every day by hunting, and it knows how to hunt, where to find its prey, and how to hunt, how to hide behind, how to lurk behind the trees and wait for its prey. So here the poet wants to say that the tiger is free to do whatever it wants to do, in whatever way it wants to find its prey, hunt and have its food. It does not need the help of human beings. Whereas when it is inside the cage, somebody comes and feeds the food for the tiger. So here we see in the forest, he is the king. He is free to do whatever he wants and free to live in its own way. Now let's look at the poetic devices of this stanza. Rhyme scheme is again A, B, C, B. Grass, pass. Okay. Alliteration, here we know the use of the sound per at the start of two words, that is plump and pass. The sound of per. You know that alliteration is repetition of the words beginning with the same sound. Imagery. The poet has tried to create an image of the activities of the tiger, lurking in shadow. So when we read these lines, we imagine in our mind the tiger in the forest, isn't it? The tiger hiding behind. So that image comes to our mind. The activities of the tiger mentioned by the poet, that is lurking in the shadow. There is imagery. The bushes, the shadows of trees, they create an image of the different activities of the tiger in the forest. Now let's go to the next stanza. He should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge, baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. Now here this stanza again talks of the tiger in its natural habitat. Okay, children, you all might have seen in many movies and in various other programs on the television that there are villages in the outskirts of the jungle, isn't it? And in many films you might have seen many a times the tigers come out of its natural habitat and they come near the human settlement and they try to threaten the human beings. But let me tell you, the tiger hunts for its food. Hunting is not the pleasure of the tiger. That's what the poet wants to tell us. If we don't harm these animals, they won't harm us. That we need to understand. So here the poet is talking about the village which is there in the outskirts of the jungle, and sometimes what does this tiger do? Let's first try to look at the word meaning so that it becomes easy for you to understand the stanza. Snarling, warning sounds made by animals. Bearing is uncovered, like we say barefoot. Fangs, the sharp tooth of animals. Now, sometimes what does the tiger do? It would come near the houses that are there at the outskirts of the jungle, and it would make a loud sound, the warning sound, warning that okay, I am there, so that the people come to know that there is a tiger out there. It would make snarling sounds, or you can say it would give warning sounds of its presence there around the houses. And then bearing his white fangs, that means his sharp tooth. You might have seen in pictures or sometimes even in zoos also, when the tiger makes loud sound opening its mouth with its two big teeth. So, and its claws, we know the long nails of the tiger. So with its two sharp long teeth and its claws, it gives warning sounds to the people of the village. And it tries to frighten them, terrorizing the village. Children, you can imagine the condition of the villagers when they get to know that there is a tiger giving warning sounds with its mouth open and with its long sharp teeth and its claws trying to threaten the villagers. So definitely the villagers' reaction would be to come out and somehow maybe to kill the tiger. Many a times it happens that or they might inform the people of the forest department, or maybe there is a forest guard there nearby. Somehow they would, if there is a forest guard, then maybe he might take the tiger away from that site. Or many a times people, they come out with their guns the moment they see the tiger, and they try to kill the tiger. That is why the poet is stressing on the point that the tiger is just trying to terrorize the villagers. And as I already told you, the tiger hunts for its food and it's not its pleasure. And therefore, if we don't disturb them, they also will not harm us. So that is what the poet is trying to say. And now let's look at the poetic devices. The rhyme scheme again is AB, CB. Edge, village. Onomatopoeia is also there. We had learnt onomatopoeia also. The sounds, okay, the words which the poets use to refer to different sounds. Here, snarling, the warning sound made by the tiger. So snarling is the onomatopoeia here. Now let's move to the next stanza. But he is locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. Now this stanza again has gone back to the cage, to the zoo, where the tiger is kept inside a cage. Now what happened? In the last two stanzas we saw that the tiger was free in its natural habitat to do activities according to his own will. He need not follow the instructions given by the human beings. Now again, he is locked in a concrete cell and his strength is also caged inside the cage. Stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. Now let's look at the word meaning. Here you would find only concrete, that means building made of bricks, cement, sand and water. Now the poet says the cage is made of cement, the cemented cage. So the tiger is locked in the cemented cage, and his strength, we know that the tiger is very powerful, very strong, mighty animal, and he shows all his power, strength and might in its natural habitat. Like we saw that the tiger tries to terrorize the people of the village with its warning sound and its two sharp teeth and its claws. Okay, but what happens inside the cage? He is not able to show or display his strength. All his strength also is locked inside the bars. Stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. So you all know that there are a lot of visitors who visit the zoo to look at these animals, okay, and enjoy. You also might have visited many zoos in Port Blair, and also whenever you go to the mainland, there are big zoos with so many animals. So here also there were visitors and stalking the length of his cage. That means he was, as such, I have told you, the tiger is a proud creature. But here he was not able to, walk proudly. He was not free. He was inside the cage. So he was walking in anger, right? Stalking the length of his cage. That means walking in anger. And he tried to ignore the visitors because he was angry, right? He does not like to be inside the cage, but he was helpless. Therefore, whenever the visitors try to draw its attention towards them, he tries to ignore them. Now let's go to the poetic device. The rhyme scheme is again A, B, C, B, bars and visitors. Personification, again the tiger has been personified by the poet because he refers to the tiger as he. Alliteration, the sound of b as in behind, and bars, right? Now let's move to the next stanza. Now this is the last stanza of the poem. He hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. Now patrolling means to guard or to vigil. You might have seen the police cars patrolling at night, right, to ensure that no untoward incidents occur or no crimes happens. So here inside the zoo also, the staff, the forest guards or the staff who are on duty, they patrol in cars at night to see that everything is all right and all the animals are safe. And then brilliant means very bright. Stare, look for a long time. Now the poet says that at night, again let me tell you that the scene is inside the cage of the zoo. Now what does the tiger do? As he does not like to be inside the cage, and he is helpless and he is in an angry mood. At night what happens is he hears the voice of the patrolling cars, and what does he do? He stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. Stares means to look at something for a long time. So what does the tiger do? Because he cannot do anything else inside the cage, so he looks at the sky. He looks at the stars. the brilliant eyes of the tiger looks at the brilliant stars. He feels that, you know, these stars are so free. The open sky and the brilliant stars. So he did nothing but looked at the sky with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. So dear children, let's look at the literary device. Rhyme scheme is again ABCB. Cars, stars. Alliteration, again the sound of her in he and hears. So I hope you have understood the poem. We had looked at each stanza separately, looked at the word meanings and also at the literary devices. You might have noticed that ABCB is the rhyme scheme of all the stanzas. Therefore, the rhyme scheme of the poem would be ABCB. Okay, so I would request you to read the poem at home and with a pencil in your hand, mark all the literary devices and try to write with a pencil in the textbook itself, or even you can note down in the practice notebook also the different literary devices. You can note down those lines also which are the literary devices. Children, let me tell you that there are two other poems in your textbook. After you read this particular poem, there are two other poems. One is the tiger and the panther. These two poems also talk about the tiger or the panther inside the cage and what are their feelings once they are caged. So once you read these two poems, you will get more idea of what happens when animals are not allowed to be in their natural habitat and they are forced to be inside the cage. And there are also questions, if you look into your textbook, of the tiger inside the cage and the tiger in its natural habitat. So it could be asked for your long questions also. So try to write the activities of the tiger as mentioned by the poet in the cage and also in its natural habitat. So this could be one question which you have to write in the exams. So write this and practice. And also there is a question for you to discuss amongst your friends in groups, but you can't do that right now. So you can collect points regarding the animals being inside, regarding the wild animals being kept inside the zoo. Is it right on the part of human beings? Is it going to affect only the animals or it is going to affect us also? Are we helping in maintaining the ecological balance? Okay, they have also asked you that whether it is fair to keep the animals inside the zoo. Will this be educating the public by keeping the animals in the zoo? Okay, zoos these days have the facilities to keep the animals. They have reserves also. Some of the zoos also have reserves, but still it is not like being so free in their natural habitat as inside the zoo. So you have to, maybe you can get questions in your writing part, in your letter writing also, regarding keeping the animals in zoos. Okay, whether it's keeping animals in the zoos, whether it is right on the part of human beings or not. Okay, if not, what would be your argument? So you need to write about this also. I hope after reading the two other poems given in the book, you will be able to write these answers and also your own opinion. What do you feel whether animals should be kept in the zoo? So what would happen if we do so? And if we don't do so, and if we allow them to be free in their natural habitat, what would be the results? So I hope you will practice writing these answers. In the next class, we'll meet again with some other topic. Until then, take care, stay safe, stay at home.